With so many different English translations of the Bible, have you ever wondered, do translations change God's message? Or, if the Bible wasn't originally written in English, how do we know our translations today are accurate? The deeper question might actually be this: how does God, working through imperfect humans, communicate all that we need to know about who He is in a way that we can understand it? Translating from one language to another language is always a difficult task. And in this case, it's not just about translating words, it's also about translating ancient culture and history into a modern world. But here's the amazing thing: English translations aren't based on only one copy or one translation. We have thousands of manuscripts and ancient documents that scholars use to compare side by side, and when they line them up, the core message of the Bible stays consistent. One powerful example of this is the Dead Sea Scrolls. These were discovered in 1947. Some of these manuscripts are over 2,000 years old, and a lot of our newer English translations were translated from these manuscripts. However, translations like the King James Version, which was translated in 1611, use Hebrew and Greek manuscripts that were much younger than these Dead Sea Scrolls, but these were all that were available at that time. And because of that, many scholars today will look down upon the King James Version and say that it's not as accurate because it was translated from manuscripts that were younger than the Dead Sea Scrolls. But I, for one, wouldn't discredit the King James Version. I believe all English translations, despite their limitations, have some pro that we can use and some advantage that can help give perspective. It's important for us to understand that the process of preserving scripture is not like a telephone game where the message changes as it gets passed along. It's more like comparing multiple written copies side by side and seeing where they are consistent and where they consistently agree. Now, the best way to study scripture deeply would be learning the original languages, the Hebrew, the Aramaic, and the Greek. And there are many tools available to help us to look into those original languages. But for most of us, we'll find ourselves stuck with only having the English translations, those of us that speak English. But honestly, this isn't a bad thing, especially since we have multiple versions. Reading different translations can actually lend itself to giving us more perspective and more context, which will better help us understand the message that God intended for us to have. One of the things that I've noted is that truth tends to preserve itself, especially when there are multiple witnesses. Lies and deception can easily be spotted or easily end up standing out once a person knows the truth. And when there are multiple witnesses of that truth, it helps the truth to be clear. And that is a beautiful thing that God has allowed. So I hope I can encourage you that even though there are so many translations and even though we are so many centuries behind, the message of the Bible remains the same: that God is all loving, all merciful, all gracious, and all kind, even in some of the hardest situations. And the Bible clearly shows that. And He calls us to love Him with all our heart, all our mind, all our strength, and all our soul, and to love our neighbor as ourselves. And the more we come to know that, is the more we reflect who He wants us to be.